Supervisor Kevin Cavanaugh is attending telephonically. Supervisor Cavanaugh, are you there?
Yes, I am.
Okay. Item number 1 is a presentation and discussion on the child care crisis in Pinal County by Katrina Davini, Pinal's Regional Director, First Things First, Annette Lopez, Engagement Coordinator of First Things First, and Don Wilkinson, owner of Enhancing Early Childhood. I don't know if you've gone to the other board members as of yet, but one of the things that I suggested is that they come and present their program to all of us because, I mean, we, especially in my area, and I don't know what your guys feel is for your areas as well, but we have a really dire need for child care in the Santan Valley area. And I'm assuming everybody may have that same issue with your district. So with that being said, I'll turn the time over to Katrina.
I will turn it over to Annette. She's
Okay.
First up. Thank you all so much for letting us come talk to you today.
And then when you come up.
Thank you so much for letting us talk to you today.
Yeah, when you come up, if you could just announce your name, and I know I just read them, but.
Yes, sir. How do we get to the presentation? Okay, good morning. My name is Annette Lopez, and I am with the statewide agency First Things First. I am Community Engagement Coordinator in the Pinal region. So like Regional Director Katrina said, thank you so much for giving us time and space and this platform to present to you guys a little bit about our agency, what we do, how we work, and kind of tackling this child care crisis that we have in Pinal County. Let's see, so that would be the title page, and I hear you have these slides in a sense in front of you. This presentation is going to be a little bit different than say like a normal slide deck or PowerPoint. This is easily printable, more like PDF style so that you can print it out and at your leisure go back and reference a lot of the information. So throughout the slides you might see a lot of verbiage and wording. Again, that's just for you to reference back. So it just won't be the original slide deck with images and myself presenting to you. So I will briefly discuss who First Things First is as a state agency, and most importantly, why early childhood matters, and what you can do as county supervisors. I'm glad, County Manager, good morning, that you are here as well, so that we can see what we can do to support young children in our Pinal region. So First Things First is one of the critical partners in creating a family-centered, comprehensive, collaborative, and high-quality early childhood system that supports the development, the health, and early education of all Arizona's children, birth through age 5. We will talk a little bit more about why birth through age 5. So our vision is all of Arizona's children are ready to succeed in school and in life. Our picture for Arizona is one in which all Arizona children are healthy and ready to succeed in school. As Arizona's sole agency dedicated to early childhood, a primary focus of our work at First Things First is quality early learning. And we will tackle that quality word here in a little bit as well. Arizona voters created First Things First in 2006 because it's clear that the first 5 years of a child's life is our best opportunity to set the foundation for lifelong success. Our goal is to partner with community and organizations to better support families and children, and therefore strengthen our communities. The way we support families right from the start makes a big difference in shaping a child's future, which impacts all of us. So it's important that a system exists to support the development, the health, and early education for our youngest citizens. Because what happens in the early years, as you may know, or maybe not know, but we'll learn today, really does matter. So First Things First provides the funding in which goes to our grant partners, who then provides the services to children and families. First Things First provides funding to programs that focus on preventative medical and dental care to young kids, which help avoid school absences and learning problems later on. Programs are voluntary, available at no cost to families, and are provided in a variety of settings. Anyone can go to our website to find their region, put in their address, and find the programs available in their area. So kids who start behind usually stay behind when they get to school. We need to invest in all kids in the early years so they are prepared and ready to succeed on their first day of kindergarten. When children experience learning in an early, high-quality setting, it helps to ensure a better prepared student by the time they are in our classrooms. Helping our kids now helps you, us, and as a community, as a county directly. When that solid foundation is laid in the early years, there are so many benefits that will follow that child later in life. It will impact how ready that child is by the time they enter kindergarten, how they score on reading assessments, and how likely they are to graduate and have a career. So we'll briefly touch on high school graduation rates in Pinal County. I usually ask the question when presenting what would be an ideal percentage rate for graduation rates in Pinal County, and of course the answer is usually 100%. Well, according to census data, Pinal high school graduation rate is about 87%. Not bad, but it's not 100, which means about 13% of our students are not achieving a high school diploma. So First Things First is driven by research that proves children exposed to high-quality early childhood education have better language, math, and social skills, and better relationships with classmates. In addition, we know that early language abilities are directly related to later reading abilities, and literacy is the 21st century skill that successful people most need. Because language matters for later reading, it's important to note that gaps in children's vocabulary start to appear as early as 18 months. This is important because in Arizona, by the time they reach 4th grade, 69% of Arizona students cannot read proficiently. The best way to reverse this trend is to help children develop language and expose them to books before they enter kindergarten, birth to 5. And as the image shows, 3rd grade reading ability is one of the best predictors of high school graduation. So I believe we all share a vision here. By ensuring all children come to kindergarten ready to succeed, Pinal teachers and schools will be able to teach the right information and support the appropriate skill development at each grade level. Quality early learning is critical for healthy development. Employers often say that they need employees who can problem solve, communicate, show self-discipline, and get along with others. Well, these executive function skills start to develop in those early years, birth to 5. Young children need the tools to develop these essential skills. And with quality childcare, that supports those skills. Problem-solving skills, communication skills, social interaction skills, which all again begin to develop in the first 5 years. And investing in early learning is smart. Research by Nobel Prize winning economist James Heckman. It shows that every $1 invested in quality early childhood programs can yield returns of up to $16. Businesses across the nation recognize that quality childcare matters for recruitment and retention. Pilot programs in many states, including Kentucky, Michigan, Iowa, North Carolina, are showing partnerships between government and private companies and working families, and they work to make childcare more affordable. Like many states, our state and our county faces a childcare crisis. Our county faces this childcare crisis head-on, especially because the majority of our county is rural. There's limited childcare options, and it's more expensive than ever. Business and economic development leaders, elected leaders, and communities are working to find long-term solutions, and today we invite you to get involved. Quality childcare ensures that parents can work, that children can learn, and the economy can thrive. Working parents are a critical part of the U.S. labor supply, and about 11% of workers in the U.S. have children under the age of 5 at home. About 475,000 workers here in Arizona alone. With many industries and employers facing workforce shortages, finding and affording childcare shouldn't be a barrier. So next, you will hear about the state of childcare specifically here in Pinal County by Don Wilkinson.
Good morning. My name is Dawn Wilkinson with Enhancing Early Childhood, and I'm a contractor that works with First Things First, kind of addressing the child care crisis issue and the workforce issue that we have here in Pinal County. I'm also the data person, and so I'm here to share some of the numbers with you that are specific to Pinal County. So as you can see, the Pinal County child care gap is the 71.5%, and that's right now. The Bipartisan Policy Center, a national organization, looked at the child care gap throughout the country, and their data was from 2019. We took that same idea and we projected it out so that we could see what's the child care gap going to grow to. And as you can see, if we do nothing right now and we keep our current child care slots as they are, how the child care gap will grow over the next several years. And as I was driving here, I saw kind of the expansion of housing developments coming in, and it's very exciting to see those housing developments. And I get scared at the same time because I know with each of those houses come children, and we have no child care for those children. Pinal County is considered a child care desert, which means there's not enough child care to be able to house the number of children in that region. And you can see by this map how child care programs are spread out throughout Pinal County, and then the concentration of programs as soon as you go over into Maricopa County. What we see happening, especially in the Santan area, is that families are leaving Pinal County to go to Maricopa County because there's child care. And then once they're in Maricopa County, they stay there to work. They're not staying in Pinal County to work because there's no child care. They're having to leave the county for child care, therefore they're staying out and working outside of Pinal County. One of the issues that we have around this child care crisis and being able to increase the number of slots is a staffing issue. Many of our programs talk about how difficult it is to staff their programs, to keep their staff. Some programs have rooms that are closed, that they're not able to open. So even the supply number that you see is just the licensed capacity. It does not mean that we are providing that much child care currently, because some of the programs are having to close classrooms because there's not staff to come and to be able to open those classrooms and accept children into those slots. So that's becoming a huge issue for us, being able to find and attract people who are interested in this profession. And the reason being is because, quite frankly, it's an unlivable wage. Lots of time workforce development programs talk about really targeting the workforce careers that will make livable wages. And early childhood is kept out of those conversations because we do not make livable wages in early childhood. As you can see, the median wage for Arizona is $14 to $15, $14.78 to $15. And so just barely over minimum wage is what a child care provider is making. Over 50% of child care providers across the country qualify for public assistance. And so we have to address the issues around the staffing and around employment to make this a profession that attracts people to want to come and to be work in early childhood. It's a business model, and it's a broken business model across the country. Because as you can see here, the federal government has now said that for child care to be considered affordable, it should be 7% of a family's income. In Pinal County, for one infant, it costs $10,602 annually. For that to be 7% of a family's income, a family would have to make $151,000 here in Pinal County. That's just not happening. And so
Chair,
there.
can we ask questions?
Yeah.
So just back to that point. So, you're talking about the gap and the wage because a lot of the people can't afford to pay those. I can tell you from personal experience, one of my kids lives up in Seattle, pays $2,500 a month for one.
Yep.
When they had both kids in, it was $3,500 a month.
Yeah.
Yahoo, So, just saying it's expensive.
It's expensive, and we can't, other organizations and other businesses, if they need to expand, if they need to increase wages, if they need to do something like that, they can increase the cost of their products. we can't do that because already we're outpricing what parents can pay. And it's a huge kind of just broken business model is the true issue. And without some kind of public funding to help us support the broken business model and to be able to provide some relief to the families and to the child care providers, this is only going to get worse, because what we're seeing happening is programs are starting to close because they're saying they can't make it work anymore. And that's scary to think about at a time when we are in this child care desert and we need to increase slots that programs are thinking of closing. So enhancing early childhood through the grant, some of the things that we're looking at that we would like to do with Pinal County is to really create a strong network of home care providers. And so these are families that are family, friend, and neighbor care, as well as individuals who are running businesses out of their homes. And to also work with those ones that are running the businesses out of their homes to be able to be regulated and to be connected with all of the services and the resources and licensing to increase the quality of those programs and to be able to provide the resources that the state already has available to them and connect them with those. We need to increase capacity, hours, spaces within the current public and private centers. The capacity hours, if you think about it, most of the companies that are coming in are going to be 24/7, 365, and we need childcare every minute that the plants are open. We need childcare available for those time frames. And right now, a typical childcare program is open from 6 a.m. to 6:30 p.m. And Head Start programs or public school programs run school year schedules. And so that really isn't addressing the true child care issue that needs to be addressed for the workforce of Pinal County. Community investments, that's going to help us to kind of address some of these issues. And then a single location for families to access the existing community resources. And we do have a website, pinealearlychildhood.com. I invite you to visit it, to where we are starting to kind of share those resources for the community so that they can access them easier and quicker. And now I'm going to turn it over to Katrina DeVinny to share some solutions that we have learned that's going on around the country.
Good morning. I'm Katrina DeVinny. I'm the Pinal Regional Director for First Things First. And just a little bit more of information for you. First, as Annette said, this is our vision as First Things First, but you can see surrounded by that vision are different sectors. And First Things First wants to become more than just an agency that provides programs and services and funds things. We want to be a system partner, a strong system partner in getting everybody else on board with this vision of how we actually create children that are prepared for kindergarten and for the rest of their lives. So if you look at that picture, you can see there's a lot involved, all the way up to higher education and philanthropies. We just see the Board of Supervisors in Pinal County as a huge, huge partner in this system that we're trying to build. As she also said, and on the next few pages, I won't go through all of these, but we have put together options that people have done around the state and around the country that have solved or helped to solve their child care problems where they are located. So just a couple of these that I want to highlight. One is PEEPS, which is a cross-sector approach down in Pima County. Before I go into these at all, I want to let you know that we are the early childhood experts. We are not the experts in any of this, but we can be the connectors. We can connect you to the people in Pima that figured out how to use ARPA funds to support child care and then transitioning that into their library district tax. You can find out how they did that. We are not the finance people. We can just tell you why it matters and that we have an issue. but we are more than happy to connect you with the people that are doing these innovative solutions. The other one that I wanted to highlight for you is on, is that 17? Ooh, my eyes. Oh, I can't see it.
17.
17, thank you, is the Nevada Care Access Real Estate. So Nevada took the issue of housing and the issue of childcare and combined them into one solution. So that's one that I thought might be of interest. Anywhere I've been recently, the Business Journal event on how Pinal is a growth corridor, or the Business and Education Summit with the ESA and Achieve Pinal is all about, we have a childcare issue and we have a housing issue. So this is an innovative idea of how they tried to tackle both. And then the Oregon Preschool for All is another county-led initiative in Oregon. They did a voter initiative for a marginal tax on high-income residents and workers. So I just wanted to highlight some things that counties have done around the country. There are a lot more solutions in here. The last couple of pages are all about identifying and creating new funding streams. So there's just a wealth of information in there for you all to consider and read and talk about. And now we will just love to open it up to any questions that you might have. I know we've thrown a lot of information at you today.
Supervisor Miller.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So your ask is revenue of some type or some support in that way. I mean, have you been successful in getting grants from anybody, like the tribes? They always have a grant cycle and what have you. Have you explored any of those?
Let me know if I'm speaking wrong, but I believe our CEO and our Director of Tribal Affairs is in conversations currently with the Arizona Indian Gaming Association.
Okay.
So
'Cause they're
those talks have begun.
They have an annual cycle, and each tribe kind of has a different cycle, so you want to be involved in all of those. Those can be a source of income. So where does the majority of or is there a base that sends you dollars for some reason, either through this national organization or what have you? Is that, trying to understand better how you fund this operation?
First Things First is funded through tobacco tax revenue.
Okay, the state of Arizona's.
We are a department of the state, but we are not in the general fund.
Okay, you're in the general fund.
Go ahead, yeah.
You're not in the general fund, but you get dollars out of the tobacco tax. Okay.
So early childhood is kind of a mixed a mixed bag of funding because we are within every state agency. There's a section for early childhood. So the Department of Economic Security receives funding from the Child Care Development Block Grant, which is the federal block grant that brings funding into the state for child care assistance, plus some additional support around the workforce. And that goes through DES. And then we have the Department of Health and Human Services, where is our licensing. And that funding goes directly to licensing and providing the regulatory body for child care. And then we have First Things First. So you can see we kind of get money from everywhere, but there are $0 coming out of the state general fund. And so really the only dollars that we get, besides the tobacco tax funds that we get for First Things First, are from the federal government.
Okay.
Does that help?
And a little bit, and yeah, because I'm just a numbers guy, so I got to just understand how you finance all of this and where those revenues come from.
The main part of the financing for the programs is on the backs of the parents.
Is on the backs of the parents. Okay.
Yeah, it's parent pay.
And is by chance, is there a sliding scale on that to their income, or is it just a flat?
It's a flat rate at each of the programs, and then if they receive child care assistance from DES, then there is a sliding scale based on their income through DES, through the assistance program. But as far as the child care fees, each program decides their own rates and makes their own rates.
I see. Does each entity have their own little board, or they have a board of directors or staff, or how do they determine that rate?
They're all businesses, small businesses, and so the owners. The owners can drive the rates, and they usually kind of shop around and do a local what's everybody charging and kind of come up with some averages of what everyone's charging to base theirs on.
Not on what it costs?
But
Okay. I'm sorry, I shouldn't say that.
No, but that's the exact problem, right? Because it's not on what it costs, and it's not on what it costs to run a high-quality program. Because if we did that, there's absolutely no way that a parent could pay.
Could afford it.
And that's the business model, the broken business model part of it.
I'm going to shift gears just a little bit and to the facilities, because am I hearing you correctly that there's suggested in certain states or in certain places that people run these operations out of their house? And if that's the case, like a lot of these requirements require building department to come in and establish safety, exits, fire protection. I mean, there can be a whole list of things that are required on that facility, be it either a home or even just a building downtown, that the building department has to come in and classify that, and that's part of the licensing program, if I'm correct.
Yes.
I am correct?
Yes, you are
It's
correct.
amazing.
It goes through everything.
Okay.
Yeah, we deal with every agency to be able to get licensed or to be able to run a business out of our homes, because you don't necessarily have to be licensed if you're running it in your home.
Well, and
that's a whole
I think,
different story.
Because if it's adult care, they have to be licensed. So, but for child care, they don't? Because I thought they did.
So for child care, you can have 4 children in your home that you're receiving payment for.
So it is tied to a number.
It is tied to a number. Yes.
And okay.
Yes.
That makes sense as well. I think that's my questions for now. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chair, so to that, you're talking about wages and the ability to pay, and what I see is, it's a big circle. As we bring in better businesses to pay better, then the parents are able to pay more for those services. So that's part of our issue. When you see the homes coming and you see businesses coming, then you will see the ability to pay a higher fee, which would help some of this.
Are the jobs that are coming in going to be making $151,000?
Yes.
They
Wow.
can.
Yeah, lots of them.
Yeah, a lot of them.
Nice.
So, and then looking at your one funding source there for PEEPS and PEMA, they took ARPA dollars, and now they're transitioning to library district tax, because the $30.2 million is a lot of money to pull out of the library district. So I see increasing taxes. I understand where you're going, but I see that the ARPA dollars are not there anymore, so that ability is going to disappear unless they're able to charge that tax.
How long have you guys? How long have you been in existence now? What year did you start all this? Did I hear 2006?
2006.
Okay. And how is it in comparison to? I know I used to. Long time ago, I did the insurance for NACOG, Northern Arizona Council of Governments, and they had their preschool program that they ran there, and they had like 250 employees. And they stretched all the way from Snowflake and from Navajo County, Apache County, all the way over to Coconino County, and all the way to Mojave County.
Yes.
And so there was a big span, and they had that many employees. How's that in comparison to where, and I'm telling you, that program was unbelievable. They had so many doggone students. They provided benefits that were just at the top level back in that day.
Yes.
And there was a trade-off because they didn't pay them a good salary. I mean, a really good salary. Yeah. But the benefits, the trade-off for getting those type of benefits was big to them. How is that in comparison? The NACOGs, the WACOGs, all of those in comparison to what you guys are doing?
There's a few things that have happened since then that have impacted where we are now. Once the recession hit in 2008, the state pulled the majority of their assistance for childcare out and put that into other areas that they're more needed. And the state has never put that investment back. So then you couple that with inflation and what we're all facing right now with the cost of housing, the lack of housing, the cost of everything. It's just compounded itself. And the pandemic kind of ripped the Band-Aid off of this problem. It was there, but we were managing, and then the pandemic just ripped it wide open, where we literally can't do this anymore. We can't find the workers because, like Dawn said, we are paying them an unlivable wage. They can go and work at a fast food place and have better working conditions than caring for young children. And it's just been very difficult to get people, and with the cost we're asking parents to pay, we're pulling people out of the workforce because it's cheaper to stay home, one person to stay home and watch the children, than it is to have two people working and put their children in childcare. So this is a multi-pronged problem, but it's an issue, and it's our youngest children. It's our children that are going to be us someday doing the work here in Arizona. And Pinal County specifically strikes me because I've heard from Nikola, Lucid, Procter & Gamble, Kohler, these huge corporations that are putting these gigantic manufacturing plants in Pinal County, which is great, but we don't have the infrastructure. We don't have the infrastructure for the youngest children.
So you're talking about the infrastructure being childcare?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, LG is a big one that's coming up in Santan Valley area, and that was one of the things where in Korea they are really big in childcare, and that's one thing that they've been investigating and looking at what they can do as an employer group to provide and enhance the childcare within the Santan, Queen Creek areas, and so. And that's where, when we were part of negotiating and bringing LG here in Santan Valley, that was something that was at the top of the list for a lot of us between the county and Queen Creek, being able to entice them to come. And we've been able to, I know that there's 2 different locations that are being proposed that are going to provide child care centers. That'll help plug some of the gap, some of the hole. But, and then, speaking from experience, I've got a daughter that is now teaching at a school, but she did that at home. And I don't know how many, it was a preschool. It wasn't it wasn't any kid that was under 5, but it was a preschool. And she had, 10 or 11 kids, and she had to get licensed, and she had to go through that kind of stuff. And it was pretty successful for her, but it got to where she needed to, it wasn't paying enough, for one thing. So that's why she went to work at one of the local schools. And so I see a lot of need here, absolutely. I think there's a lot of areas that are kind of unexplained as to how we're going to go about doing anything. Yeah. That needs to be, I don't know, I feel like we probably ought to look at some of how we can help if we can. I think Supervisor Miller brought up something very interesting with the gaming, the Tribe Gaming Institution. I know that we and a lot of those grants have to come through us, correct? They all do.
Yeah, we act as the fiscal agent.
Yeah, and so it might behoove you to get with our grant department Heather
Heather
Patel.
knows the cycles of each one of these tribes, I think.
Okay. Yeah, that could be very helpful in going after and securing some of those grants that are available to help in this area. Leo, you got any ideas or suggestions? I see you and Kevin over there brainstorming.
Sorry, Mr. Chairman, what was the question?
Do you have any ideas or any suggestions on some of this, of any input?
I do not.
How about Leo?
Thank you, Chairman. Yeah, and that's exactly what Kevin and I were just starting to discuss as far as the board's legal authority, statutorily to be involved. Obviously, we know that the county can only be involved in what the state gives us authority to be involved in. And so we will explore that. I'm surmising that Pima County made a connection through their library district, which, of course, we would have the same statutes as them regarding our library district. But we will need to explore and brainstorm what areas the county can be involved in for support and engagement.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right, Miller.
Yes. Supervisor Rex Scott from Pima County is very involved in this childhood development and stuff. So I'll be seeing him tomorrow, and I know that we did put a letter to the governor on some support last year. I'll kind of follow up with Rex though and see if he has some ideas or better ideas, and if they did something through their library thing, maybe we can explore that as well.
Yeah, Chairman and Supervisor Miller, yeah, and I think why don't we bring this up to our CSA group?
Yeah. No, exactly.
Yeah, both your committee and the managers group, and throw this around.
Okay.
So
Yeah, Navajo County and
because it's
Apache, all
not
those
going to be
counties-
unique to Pinal only. I mean,
Right.
we understand that.
But to that point, I mean, I know that the counties were a big support of NACOG
Yeah.
back in that day and helping a lot of their preschool programs and things of that nature move forward. And so, okay.
Can I let you all know about a couple
Yes,
of other
yes,
things that are going
yes.
on? We held a forum in Casa Grande with the Casa Grande Workforce Development, Richard Wilkie, and that has taken off into a task force because Casa Grande has a lot of business coming in around. So the current mayor and the mayor-elect are also involved in that work, trying to come up with some solutions for Casa Grande. There's also a more community-driven task force going on up in Superior because they have zero space. They just lost their Head Start. They are in dire need. So there's a community group with Mila, the mayor up there, working on it in Superior. And so just know that we're talking to everyone. Annette and I just met last week with the mayor in Coolidge to see what they wanted to do. And we're on a road show, kind of taking this around everywhere, but we do appreciate you all listening and considering any way that the county can partner and help to solve some of it. It's going to be a multi-pronged patchwork sort of solution, but we're hoping we can get somewhere.
Yeah. And that's where the cities do have a little bit more flexibility. They're not mandated like we are in the state, so that's good. I'm glad you're speaking to those folks too, and
We are.
and we can give them some support from time to time. If nothing
Maybe
else.
we as supervisors can reach out to our cities as well and to our communities and see what we can do to get their involvement in helping with
That
some
would
of
be a
this.
great help.
Okay.
And
All right.
I actually know Heather Patel. I've worked with her for a long time.
Oh, good.
So,
That makes it
Yeah.
easy then.
Yep.
I don't need to introduce you.
no. Just a warm handoff, and
Got it.
then I can take it from
She's
there.
probably listening. So, Heather, this is the warm handoff.
Okay.
Great.
Thank you all so much for your
Oh,
time.
Kevin Kavanaugh, do you have any questions?
Yes, thank you. Is there a figure that, or a study that you can point to that says that the daycare programs have a higher success rate in teaching kids reading prior to kindergarten? parent. That's number one. Number two, are there any studies that we can look at that show, why it's almost impossible to have a successful daycare, for instance? What are the costs of insurance for taking care of an infant? It's got to be pretty high. So those are my two questions.
So and to his question, so first things first is from birth till 5? Okay. Yeah, and I know where we're at as far as the society as a whole. We're in a situation, we're in an era now to where it takes 2 members of the family to work to actually provide a decent living for themselves and their family. And it's unfortunate we've gotten to that area, but we are in that situation now. Nobody can provide a better care for their kids than mom and dad. And I put mom first. Okay? And so there's no substitute for good parents. None. 0.
Yeah. We can definitely look up some studies on the importance of early literacy. Read on Arizona has done a lot of work around that and how it impacts everything.
That's good.
Including math scores.
But I think, did I not hear you tell us in our breakfast meeting when you guys did a presentation that you also provide counseling and things for the parents themselves, correct? Did I understand that?
We have programs. So we have a parenting education program that we fund through the Apache Junction Public Library that goes around the county and supports parents in their education of how to raise children. Okay. We have a family friend and neighbor program that supports those home care providers.
So it's not just the children, there's an education for the family as a whole.
Yes.
There's really, that struck me when you guys presented that to us as something that, because I was sitting there thinking, okay, do I want government to be taking care of our kids? Okay. But then once you brought that out and looking at that, and I honestly, as old as I'm at my age, I've seen a lot of family. Are you laughing over there? Mm-hmm. I've seen a lot of families that have had the need for that type of counseling and help. And so, all right. Well, I think we've got kind of an idea and a direction where we're going to head. Supervisor Miller's going to follow up with Pima County Supervisor. I think and then you're going to follow up with CSA. I think there's a lot of other counties that are in this kind of a dire need as we're moving forward. I know our cities are, and you've already mentioned Casa Grande as one of them. So, okay. Yes.
Just to touch on Mr. Kavanaugh's question there, as Katrina mentioned, there are many studies, and that is one thing that First Things First does. It's evidence-based. We have, as I mentioned, very many different slide decks, depending on our audience, which slide deck we choose, a business audience, community leaders, faith leaders, elected leaders as well. And a lot of those studies are conducted, and the reason why we do primarily focus on birth to age 5 is because of those evidence-based studies. Of course, there's a lot of remedial services, catching a child up. But as I mentioned earlier, once they are behind, more than likely they will stay behind. And a lot of times investing in those first 5 years does mean that those remedial services later on in school will cost that district less money. So of course we do want to catch a child up, especially during their early literacy stages, 3rd grade reading scores. And we talk about the correlation. Depending on a 3rd grader's reading score depends on how likely they are to graduate high school. An even more staggering statistic is states across the nation look at 3rd grade reading scores to see how many beds they will need in a prison system. So that is actually tied in. And again, we really want to catch these children up before they get into kindergarten. As Mr. Goodman had mentioned, there's no better parent than, your parent alone. Of course, there's many children who have parents or, caregivers, grandparents taking care of them, and of course that family unit is a huge foundation, which is why, as mentioned, we have those programs in place, those programs that do teach parents how to be your child's first teacher, because a parent truly is your child's first teacher. Unfortunately, a lot of those parents do have to enter the workforce, as we talked about, because of the services. A lot of parents do leave the workforce, and as Mr. Goodman said, it's the women. The women are the ones leaving the workforce, of course, besides, the parent of being a male figure, the father. So we do want to see the women enter the workforce a lot more, and we do want to see the women be in the workforce too. And just as a last statistic here, the biggest employer for Pinal County, I actually was doing some research for a different presentation that I have to do, and I was looking at the Lucids, the Procter & Gamble's, who we've been in conversation with. Well, it's actually Pinal County. Pinal County is the biggest employer in Pinal County, but we welcome support, whatever it looks like. Support may not always be monetary money. We understand every sector needs, funding, but support can look like in very many different ways. Like Regional Director Katrina mentioned, those task force. I do welcome every district. If your district is Casa Grande, I welcome you to those meetings that we have either virtually and or in person. If your district is Superior, I welcome you to those meetings just so you can see what your district, what your community is talking about. As she said, we're going on a roadshow, so every district will be covered. If your district currently does not have a task force with their mayors or their communities, we hope to build one up. So I invite you to any of those meetings. But thank you so much for giving us the time and the space and for looking into different avenues for us. Thank you.
Okay, and just one last thing, if you can provide Natasha with those district meetings that you're talking about, and then she can distribute them and get them out to us as supervisors so that we can attend.
Thank you.
Okay? All right. Any other questions? Okay. Thank you. Item number 2. Board of Supervisors sitting as the Board of Equalization for ratification of hearing officer decisions from the Board of Equalization hearings on petitions for review of notice of change held on November 4, 2024. Does the board have any questions in regards to those changes? Supervisor Kavanaugh?
No questions.
Okay. Can I have a motion moving forward?
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to approve item number 2 as presented.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
Nay.
Ayes have it. And we are adjourned. Thank you.
Everyone else has left the call.